So, Max, after 2 years, you're back here. Thank you so much for being here.
It feels amazing to be back. Thank you for having me.
I guess the biggest question is what's going on with Canada right now? That's a very broad question. We can split it up anyway.
Well, I think Titanic is a very good metaphor. We were about to hit the iceberg, but I think we've managed to steer the ship a little bit away from it. We're still not 100% safe with all these challenges, global wars. The economy is not doing that well. Plus, Trump down south is trying to start some war. But I guess we have good leaders and people across Canada, coast to coast to coast, that try to fight back and try to steer the ship away from any dangers.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it affecting your business at all? I know you're a part of I'm Canada. You've just launched or you're just expanding a new company, which we'll get into. So, what's going on over in your world?
Why my world is changing every week because my world is the world of immigration and the space, as you have probably seen, many people get bombarded by all these immigration changes, updates from the government. So a lot has changed. We are doing okay to manage the challenges and trying to help other people stay afloat. With my new venture, which is, well, it's been around for 1 year, Immigrate AI Global. It's our AI platform that's streamlining immigration while making it more accessible and affordable for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, I guess we'll start off the conversation in kind of a different way. You're a very young guy. You're what, 24, 25?
25.
25, there we go. So just a year, almost a year older than me. Um, there is a kind of like an imposter syndrome being in this space and being so young. Would you say that's correct, or have you dealt with it in a different way?
Yeah, not just that, right? There's the imposter syndrome, there's haters every day, sometimes even threats, because, the higher up you get, the more people start seeing a threat in you and some kind of maybe danger or whatever. And just because of what I do, there's a notion of influencers. And for me, standing out means getting information from the source. That's one way I differentiate myself among other education influencers. So naturally, I interview decision makers, federal ministers, provincial leaders, and that comes with a lot of baggage because these people have a bunch of haters, and even a next step of that would be people who disagree to a point of sending threats, and that naturally transitions to me and what I do because they associate me and them as one, even though I'm only there to provide accurate information to help fight misinformation that is so prevalent now. But what keeps me afloat is my focus on the goal, which is making immigration accessible, affordable, making immigrants contributors, actors in the game who bring some positive benefits to the country, not just get portrayed as these bad guys who come there to take your jobs and whatnot. So there are many things that I do to help myself, but I think the main one is keeping my eyes on the prize.
Yeah, I do definitely want to get into the psychology of immigration. But just before that, we spoke 2 years ago. You were still getting some traction, but it was nowhere near this level of being on global news and meeting all these ministers. I see a picture of our current prime minister right behind you. So what is that like? The pace at which you grew and the ability to meet all of these people?
I think putting others first is what helped me get here. I set it as my mission to help people understand the complex, simplify the complex so that they can act on different policies or government platforms, government guides, and whatnot. So, with that mission and also my following, which has grown now to 400,000 followers across different platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, that attracts a lot of these decision makers and gives me access to them in a way that if I propose a collaboration because there's, let's say, some kind of new housing changes, some new programs that came out, like we did with the former Minister of Housing in April last year, or if there's any changes in fiscal policy, like my collaboration with the finance minister. I bring that information in a very simple format that's very digestible if I may say, to a large number of people, not just immigrants, but Canadians across the country. So that appeals to them, and we get a win-win. They get information from the source, my audience, and politicians or decision makers get access to a large number of people.
Right, right. And there is this kind of question of why you? You're such a young guy. You came from Ukraine. You started this business. You're starting multiple businesses as well. What do you think was different about you? Not just helping people because that's a mission, but for yourself. Was there any specific trait? Maybe it was openness. Maybe it was extroversion that made you a good fit for this pathway?
Believe it or not, I'm fairly introverted actually. I
I don't
think
believe
that
that at all.
I've developed that skill because, I don't like loud places, big parties, bars, whatever, but I like meaningful conversations. And that's part of why I like coming on your podcast, because you always bring up all these amazing topics and I love talking about it. But for me, I think what made me different was in my mind, you need to get it done no matter what, no matter the obstacles, the haters, no matter what people say, no matter how you feel in those rooms, because like you said, the imposter syndrome feeling that you're this young guy in a room full of older men, women who are often not immigrants, so they have totally different relatable points of their lives from me, from what I have. But at the same time, finding common ground and focusing, as I said, on the goal, which is simplifying the complex and making people, I would say, even giving them the armor of proper information. Because if you are misinformed, you're often just bare. You have nothing to defend yourself with against a lot of misinformation that exists, and also you don't have tools to live a better life because often if you find out, for example, my recent collaboration with the Minister of Small Businesses, we spoke about 5 different programs to assist aspiring business owners, new business owners to start a business, grow a business. So if you didn't know about it, chances are it would be extremely difficult for you to get funding to kickstart your business. But now you know, oh, there's this fund for women that gives you $30,000. For people of color, that gives you 50,000. For young people under 40, that gives them access to some funding. Now you know where to go to get those resources. And that's the most valuable because I'm giving you the map, and all you need to do is keep walking.
Right, right. I mean, that's beautifully said. And I do want to begin simplifying that complexity. I think of the perspectives on immigration right now, not just in Canada, but in the world, as kind of like the like Smog from The Hobbit, like this massive dragon that's about to tear everything down, and everybody's worried, and everybody can see it up in the air. And some people know that there's a chink in the armor, let's say, like a chink in the dragon. We just need the right black arrow to get it. It's just
Yeah,
extending that metaphor a little bit
that's
too
a good
much, but
metaphor. Yeah, yeah, I like the dragon one. I'm gonna steal that.
but what is it about this perspective on immigration that's incredibly not just toxic but misinformed? It feels like it's a caricature of what it should be. It feels like people are just running these legacy algorithms without updating it to understand precisely what immigrants could be and are and what they could contribute. So it's a very long-winded conversation, I know, but just starting, what are these toxic perspectives on immigrants that you found?
Well, bad news sell the most, right? News outlets love anything negative because that's what sells. And for immigrants, unfortunately, they've become the scapegoat of bigger issues that we've accumulated, such as inflation that was caused because of the spending during the pandemic. But, it's a double-edged sword because on one hand, yes, you could have not spent the money, you could have prevented inflation, but had you done that, that would have led to an even worse problem of millions of people losing their jobs and starving on the streets. Like that would be even worse. So it's like you have to take the painkiller if you have a horrible headache. You can't skip that. Otherwise, you would just live a miserable life in the moment, right? You can't always sacrifice the present for the future because that future may not even come for you. And immigrants, unfortunately, were part of the problem in a way that they Naturally, more people means more demand on housing, means the prices go up, also more demand on groceries and all that. So more demand, the prices go up. If there's a limited supply, right? It's like if there's, let's say, 10 apples and each is $1 and there's 10 buyers ready to buy it for $1, that's one thing. But if there's 10 apples and 1,000 buyers, all of a sudden the price goes up to $100 per apple, right? But for immigrants, it's often, when anyone comes to a new country, they have dreams, hopes. Maybe, people listening to this would be familiar with that. Maybe starting a new job, you have certain expectations, hopes that you would eventually get a promotion, will be able to save up, buy something, a car, a house. But then, if all of a sudden you are blamed uh, for issues of the company, not you, your individual performance, but the company is failing in sales or whatever other metrics, that becomes very unfair and you may even quit that job. So we see immigrants leaving the country because they feel like they're kind of becoming victim. They are painted as the enemy, and those who do not see through the narratives of the news, they often leave the country. And now we've seen the rates of outflows go up of PRs, permanent residents, and citizens. New immigrants, like international students, let's say foreign workers, they're still fighting for it, but obviously the PR window has gotten much smaller.
Yeah, I go on Reddit a little bit too much, and I see lots of people in the Our Canada subreddit and all of these things talk about, that we need to stop immigration or we need to halt immigration. They're very upset with the amount of immigrants from a particular country. I won't mention the specific one that are coming here. And there are some kind of core arguments that there are a lot of things that they're very right about. People that don't want to assimilate into the country, that want to take the values from one country and apply it here. And they're very upset about that. Is there anything we can do, anything we can say to mold that conversation, to build a bridge? Because it feels like, one group is taking a blue pill, one group is taking the red pill, and they're just not interested in having a conversation to explore a sense of unity. Well, how do we start that conversation?
Yeah, and let's address the elephant in the room. You're probably implying that people are upset with immigrants from India.
Absolutely.
And that's a lot because of some bad actors in their home country, India, which are feeding them false promises and building up these crazy expectations that once you get to Canada, get off the plane, all of a sudden you become a multimillionaire and you buy all these expensive cars and you support your family back home, which is not true. There's none of that without hard work. And there are many people from India who understand that, who are contributing to the country, but sadly, because of a few bad apples, and the media propelling that, we get to a place of a lot of hatred toward one specific nationality.
There should be some responsibility on media companies in portraying these issues because these are things that are negatively impacting Canada now. Where I think we're the most polarized we've ever been as a country, and frankly, we hate the comparisons to the U.S., but it's starting to become. There are inklings that we are becoming as polarized as the States, and we're only 50 million strong. And so we need to begin to start changing the narrative on immigration and a variety of things. So just from your perspective as a young person who's in this industry and you're talking to all of these ministers and leaders, what are your goals on reshaping that conversation?
I divide it into two groups. So there's stuff I can do with proper information, that information from the source mission. And then another group of things I can do to help is providing support systems and tools. And that's why we built Immigrate AI Global. That's where people go through a platform that's affordable and reliable. So AI can offer something that didn't exist before. Because in the past, you used to have to go through an immigration consultant or lawyer that would charge you thousands of dollars for a student visa, let's say. Sometimes even scam you. Your visa gets refused, or you just waste your money and they vanish, right? Or, in the best case scenario, you make it to the country, but you've spent a lot of money. Now AI is democratizing it. So we are trying to make legal help accessible to all. And that's incredible because not only is it making it accessible, but reliable. We have something called a red flag scanner. So it's a tool within our Student Visa Express that when an applicant creates a profile, it's checked using AI against the Immigration Act for any irregularities or discrepancies so that we can be honest and upfront with the applicant. Okay, these are your red flags. These are the risks. Yes, you can upload ABC supporting documents and the system prompts them to, but you need to understand your risks. And also we, get up-to-date data from IRCC, from the Ministry of Immigration on refusal rates by country, by learning institution, so that when an applicant goes through our system, Immigrate AI, they are able to identify their real situation and see, okay, these are my risks. These are my possibilities. What am I gonna take? What course of action is best for me? Once you are fully informed, I think it's only then fair for you to start walking the road if you choose to. But the problem with a lot of these people we brought up is they were lied to and made fake promises to, and that's why we see all these threats to the country. But yeah, so for me, it's about not just information, but also tools and support systems.
So let's turn to Immigrate AI and maybe take a step back. Why do we even need to involve artificial intelligence in this process?
Humans make mistakes, robots don't, right? If you think about your, let's say, well, we all have smartphones, right? If you send a message, you expect that message to be delivered. Because it's delivered through, let's say, your internet, so Wi-Fi data, you know that all these systems are built in a very they're robots, right? They do whatever they're told. Versus humans, if let's say I asked you to deliver a message to someone, I gave you like a note and I was like, "Oh, we have this common friend. Can you just pass on the note?" Maybe you forget, maybe you don't do it intentionally, maybe you throw it out, maybe you tear a piece of that message apart and then give them something skewed. So for me, I think what robots are amazing at, AI is spectacular at delivering reliable information because if you are deploying it responsibly, and our Immigrate AI Global was built on the frameworks used by immigration lawyers on the Immigration Act. So it's basically we put it in these guardrails so that the system cannot do anything but follow the regulation. So it becomes honest, reliable, and most importantly, affordable because, an immigration consultant would charge you $1,000, $2,000. Our Student Visa Express, if you're applying for a student visa, is $100. And we just heard back from this client. I was actually in Ottawa last week meeting up with the client who used it. She was from Mexico. Imagine this. You apply with an immigration consultant, spend 1,000 bucks. You get refused because they mess up your application. The second time you apply on your own, you get refused again because you just didn't understand some parts of the application. And then the third time you apply with Immigrate AI Global and you get approved. So that was the story of Fernanda from Mexico. And I thought it's so fascinating that we're not just delivering success for her, what she wanted, but also making it extremely affordable because, $1,000 for a consultant versus $100 for this AI system.
Yeah, the affordability is insane. But a bigger question may be the data privacy. How do we make sure the data is kept incredibly private and secure while also maintaining the efficiency?
First of all, we follow the SOC2 in North America and GDPR in Europe. Those are the two biggest data privacy standards, which are issued by United States and the European Union for companies using AI to basically keep people safe. And that's what we are following. So we don't store data, we don't sell data. The data is only used for basically compiling a document checklist and certain documents for the applicant. That's it. And then the data is deleted after that. So, I think for people who go through this process, it's extremely important to understand that I'm in good hands. Like I'm not gonna be ripped off. My data is safe, and I think what's driving me is my personal journey. Like I immigrated to the U.S., New Zealand, Canada. So I've lived in a few countries, went through different immigration systems, and I know what it's like. So we have two competitors in Canada, but I think what makes us different is that both of those founders, they have never immigrated in their life. They don't know what it is. So they're playing a 2D game while I'm in 3 dimension, because I've seen it myself. I've been through it, I've done it.
Yeah, you know all the pitfalls, all of the difficulties, where all the friction lies, and so you
Yeah,
have a
exactly.
first-hand experience. That's
Exactly.
very important. And that's something that people kind of take for granted when starting companies, is that they maybe don't have all the experience necessary, but we'll
Yeah,
save that
it's like
conversation.
it's like imagine you have to choose to go against an enemy, and you can either pick a battle-tested army or an army that's well equipped, but they've never been in a real battle. Like, which
Yep,
one would you go with?
exactly. No, that's a great metaphor. And just getting back to AI, another problem may be bias. That's something that people are incredibly afraid of. They're incredibly cognizant about. How do we deal with bias, especially when it comes to the immigration process?
Bias, yeah, bias is overcome by again guardrails. So if you train a model on very specific data and you give specific directions that it should not cross those barriers, those red lines, it will not. So for our system, as I said, it was trained on legal frameworks used by immigration lawyers, the Immigration Act. So it's basically it's not gonna go outside the current regulation. That's it. You keep it in a box. But if you maybe are not as diligent about the process and you just kind of play with it, then maybe there would be some kind of bias. And bias, appears more so in um, opinions rather than facts. Because if you follow like our Immigrate AI Global, it's basically, as I said, like imagine you go bowling, you have those guardrails on either sides, and you know that the ball is gonna hit the thing. But if you don't have it, then obviously it may not hit your target just because you didn't limit it to do so.
Right. I'm glad we got the two kind of biggest concerns out of the way. And now I just want to ask you, what is the life cycle from using Immigrate AI? I'm in, a different country. I want to come to Canada. I stumble upon Immigrate AI. What is that process from start to finish? What does that look like?
Yeah, so usually people come across our platform through social media or somewhere else, maybe our partners. They type in immigrateai.global, they go on the platform. It asks them questions about their profile, their individual case. It's very specific. And then after that, it prompts them to go through the whole pipeline. It's very simple, usually takes less than 1 hour, and you have everything ready. The system kind of guides you step by step. So again, because of guardrails, there's no way you can like stumble off the path and then lose your prize. Keep your eyes on the prize.
I guess this is a very high level question, but why come to Canada in 2025?
Hmm. See, what Canadians don't get is that there are tens of countries, dozens of countries, which face systemic barriers for certain people. So, for example, if you are, let's say, you are a man in the Middle East, yes, you have rights. But if you have a daughter, you have a sister, you have a wife, and you feel for her because she cannot drive sometimes, she cannot be herself, she cannot do things, she doesn't have freedoms. And because of those the reasons, because of the lack of freedoms, many people choose Canada. On the other hand, if you look at places like Africa, South America, in many cases, it's because of lack of safety. They feel like they cannot really go out on the street. I spoke with someone from Colombia. She told me she was at a very nice restaurant in Bogota, in the capital of Colombia, and a man just walked in, pulled out his gun, pointed the gun at her, and demanded her wallet. And guess what? She gave her wallet. So you work hard for the money, and then somebody walks in with the gun, takes it, and leaves. That's it. These reasons of safety, of social freedoms, are the main drivers for immigration. And that's why immigration will continue, no matter what people say. Even though the barriers now are extremely high for immigrants, they will still keep coming because for them, it's not just about a better financial situation. Many immigrants come with money. Many immigrants do not need money. They don't come to Canada to make money. They have better lives back home financially. But social freedoms, safety, those are the main drivers.
And what are kind of the biggest challenges over the next 5 to 10 years when it comes to immigration? Do you see the industry also going through these ebbs and flows? Do you see it constantly going up?
Yeah, so successful immigrants versus unsuccessful. The successful ones, they will understand that immigration is becoming very targeted at certain sectors. So Canada needs healthcare professionals, STEM professionals, construction workers to build all this housing and so on. If you go into those specific sectors, there are many PR pathways, there are many opportunities. If you do not, it will be more difficult for you. That's just that simple. Business will continue going. Business immigration will always be there because it's one of the biggest economic drivers for any country. So they cannot reduce that. But business immigration makes up a very small portion of total immigration. It's like less than 5%. So for skilled immigration, for people who come study here, want to stay, or those who just want to get a job and get PR, they need to understand that if I don't go into specific sectors, I will not be able to stay in Canada permanently.
It feels like this entire conversation is incredibly not convoluted, but it's an incredibly sticky topic, and I don't know why. Like just being the host and asking these questions, it feels like there's a certain weight on my shoulders right now. Do you also feel this way as well? Do you also feel a certain pressure in this moment with everything going on?
Yeah, the pressure is immense. It's, I think, as high as it's ever been because it's just such an important matter. It's people's lives on the line. So for those who are hoping to build a better life, or even for Canadians who are anti-immigration, there is a very thin line because once you cross it once, if certain people take over and start, closing countries, like we see in the US, for example, the policy is becoming very nationalist. That's very dangerous because we may reach a world where, one interesting thing from The Economist. They named the biggest dangers of 2025, and number one isn't wars or pandemics, whatever. It's actually countries becoming closed, nationalist governments. Basically, when the whole world becomes isolated. So, like you do you, I do me, and we don't interact, we don't support each other, we don't partner. That's very bad because we were privileged up until now to live in the world of connection, of no borders. So we could, travel, do trade with any country. And that was amazing because it opened up the whole planet to you. But now, if countries become more closed, then we will be in isolation. It's like COVID, but for countries.
Do you see Canada becoming more nationalistic as time goes on? It feels like, because I'm in Quebec right now, I'm in Montreal, and Amazon closed their warehouses down here. Everybody lost their minds, but also said, you know what? Canceling my Amazon subscription, going so far as to cancel Netflix and Disney Plus and everything. I'm gonna buy local, I'm gonna buy Canadian. And on the one hand, as they should, it's a free market, do as you please. But on the other hand, they're also kind of boycotting the US in its entirety. Is that worrying to you? Should that be worrying to us in general in Canada? Or is that just kind of the moment we're in right now and it'll pass?
Well, I'm not a big expert on geopolitics myself, but someone I could refer to is Ray Dalio. He's a very prominent investor, and you've probably read his book, Principles. He speaks about how economies are cyclical, they come in cycles. There's the cycle of very fast growth, and then there's a cycle of stagnation, and then there's a cycle of some digression and eventually downfall. So I would say if you look at what's been going on in the last 100 years, you would see it that there's great countries that rose and then they fell. like England, which used to be an empire, and the UK, right? But now it's just like one of those, it's still enjoying some of the perks of being a former empire, but it's not in its glory days anymore. And a lot of it is irreversible. Like those shifts that happen, they happen naturally because people are driven by certain factors. And when the pendulum swings, when it goes to left or to right, it goes in the other direction. So I think it's not about speaking why it happens, but about speaking what can we do to fix it.
Yep. I do want to bring something up, which I've been pondering for a couple of weeks now, uh, with this boycotting of everything in the US, everything from the US, in Quebec, and it feels like in broader Canada in general. I noticed that Canada has really no major tech companies or AI companies. Like it feels like we're just this major satellite of the US, and we were fine with that for so long, but as soon as that um, you know, that geopolitical nicety went away, now we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Is there any advice you would give to people who want to build major companies in Canada, like immigrant or not? How would they even begin to go about that? What should they pay attention to?
Well, I haven't built a major company myself, so I don't know.
Not yet, not yet.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic because for us, for example, at Immigrate AI Global, we have had 10,000 users. By now, we're branching out into B2B sectors. We've got some good feedback from federal ministers about how our platform is amazing because it's making legal support affordable, which is part of any government's mission to make to democratize society. It's like, taxis are now a way to have personal drivers, which used to be only reserved for the rich. So and for us, even with this like small growth now, I'm thinking about expanding to the US, right? Because the US is a big immigration market too. Even though, funny enough, Canada is bigger than the US. So in
Really?
2023, Canada had 1.3 million student visa applications, while the US only had about 700,000 of student visa applications. And if you compare populations, it becomes even more stark. But what's interesting is Canada has the highest visa refusal rates. Last year, the student visa refusal was 37%. And for some countries like Nigeria, it's like 81%. So, so yes, Canada is a good market. The US is a great market. I think the whole world is a great market. But obviously, like the next step for us, maybe 2026, 2027, would be an expansion to the US. And because it's more opportunities, I don't know if there's anything you can do to prevent it from happening. But what you can have is maybe um, one of my more radical ideas is imagine a free tax zone for AI companies in Canada. So the whole world would know that if my company does AI, let's say 50% or more is AI related, I would pay zero tax in Canada. It would create this Singapore of AI, right? Where, in Singapore, like part of their success is creating great business opportunities or a business environment for business opportunities. It's where if you open up a company, it's super easy. It's all digitalized. There's very small tax, or there used to be smaller tax. And I think we could achieve the same in Canada. Economic growth comes from people knowing that I have a lot to benefit from this place. I can pay no tax. I can grow my AI company, employ a bunch of people, and also, culture is similar. So I think many American companies would take on that offer and maybe move part of their operation or completely to Canada and startups from all over the world as well.
Yeah, I would love it. I love the way Singapore and Taiwan especially, digitize everything. I would love an e-Canada type of experience
Yeah.
for everything in general. I don't
Everything.
know who we have to talk to, but we should begin having those conversations.
And imagine the cost we would cut, right? Because all these Canada offices, like Canada, Service Canada offices, all these CRA offices, all of these thousands of employees, like it's so opposite to 2025, like it could be way more progressive in a way that we could use technology to replace the need to go to the office, and you can just open this eCanada app, like you said, and on your phone and get all your, I don't know, driver's license or some business certificates, all of these different things. I would say, yeah, business wise, it's okay. Like it's pretty digital, but like for business registrations, but for some stuff like CRA related or any like I don't know, social insurance number, all of these things which are very essential, they are often in person, and that sucks because for governments it's expensive, for people it's inconvenient.
Mhm. Yeah, I would love to have that conversation with whoever we find of figuring out how to make it e-Canada. But anyway, I think we're wrapping up slowly. What are some pieces of advice you would give to people in Canada when dealing with immigration and immigrants outside of Canada who want to come but are hesitant?
Well, for people outside Canada, first of all, what's your why? If your why is economic, there are other places you can benefit from. I mean, Canada's not bad, but there are other countries. If your why is more social, like if you want more freedoms, especially for women, for LGBT, for people of color, um, that's more interesting. So if or if safety as well. If your why is safety for kids, let's say, or your family members, yourself, or social freedoms, Canada is amazing. One of the best places on earth to come to and to thrive. But now that we've covered the why, now the how, right? The how is kind of tricky now because the refusal rates are going up, and that's why, we built our platform. So you can go check out Immigrate AI Global, see if that can help you. But in any case, you need to be informed. You need to know as I said, the refusal rate is pretty high. Understand your chances, assess them, and then go accordingly. So you need to know your risk factors and how you can build this life, how you can overcome the visa barriers and then eventually PR barriers. So now this takes me to people inside the country who want to stay in Canada. The biggest advice would be to understand that the economy and the country itself is becoming more sector oriented. So trades, healthcare, STEM, French speakers, those will be favored by the government when it comes to permanent residency. So picking up French would be very beneficial. We ourselves partnered with a school in Montreal that provides one-on-one classes online to help that. And for people who don't speak French, don't want to learn French, I would say going into those sectors would really benefit if you can maybe reskill or upskill to go into that. We are just about to partner with a platform with a company that is a charity that provides micro loans for upskilling. So if, let's say, back home you were a doctor and now you drive Uber, well, now you can get this $15,000 loan that you pay off after you graduate from your medical program. So you go back to school for a year or so, get your medical licenses, go back into the trade, become a doctor, make your 200,000 a year, and then start paying off that loan. So yeah, I mean, for what I can do is provide accurate information and support systems. What people can do is assess where they get their information from and also act on support systems available by the government and by the private sector.
Who is Max Medyk outside of I'm Canada and Immigrate AI Global? What kind of books and podcasts do you consume?
I have no personal life.
Because I know
Easy.
you said before that you don't like clubs and bars or
Yeah,
anything. I hope you like restaurants. But
yeah, I
are
do.
you a big reader or?
Uh, I listen to podcasts. I like Bill Gates' podcast. I like Y Combinator. They talk a lot about innovation, AI. I often travel for work, but also obviously when I travel for work, I can go out, eat out. So I do like some places. I'm going to Panama very soon for a small vacation plus some work. There's some travel agencies, immigration agencies who could be good partners for us that want to expand. Plus the whole drama with the Panama Canal. I need to see that myself.
Sure, sure. Does the geopolitical tension between the US and Canada worry you? Or does it go back to Ray Dalio's? It just comes in cycles.
Yeah, yeah, that's what grounds me, Ray Dalio, his wisdom.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
yeah, we will see it come and go. We'll see that, I remember the first term of Trump and how crazy it was, and people thought it was gonna be the end of the world. But no, he left office, things went back to normal. He will do things. Some of them will be good, actually. Some of them will be bad, but nonetheless, I think you need to be specific to yourself. Like, what benefits my country? What benefits me, my family? And when you focus on that, your decision making becomes safer in a way that you're not steered by emotions, by news, especially negative news, but by your compass, your North Star. Like, okay, these are the things that benefit me, and these are the things within my control. Let me go and do those.
Sure.
Yeah.
If somebody gave you a magic wand and you could solve one problem in the world, what would it be and why?
I'm trying to build that magic wand, in fact.
There we go.
For me, it's making legal help affordable for everybody because I think it's unacceptable that people cannot afford a lawyer. So if something happens to you, not just in immigration, but any law, any legal area, you cannot represent yourself, or even if you do, you fail because you are not equipped with information lawyers are equipped with. And lawyers are just translators of laws. That's all they do. So AI, robots, technology can be that translator and make it very affordable. Think about it. You, let's say 100 years ago, if you wanted to go to, let's say, China and you didn't speak Chinese, but you wanted to do business with China, you would need to hire a real person, an interpreter, for you to speak with Chinese businesses. Now you can go there with your phone, use Google Translate, ChatGPT Translate, and speak with them, communicate, and you do it for free. So the democratization of that is the same as what we're doing with the legal sector, with making legal help affordable for everybody.
That's fantastic. Just one more question. What gives you hope in the world?
Very deep. I think for me, hope comes from people that stay focused on the good. Like I brought up Bill Gates' podcast. He is focused on solving public health, so vaccines for cancer, HIV, all those things. Despite all the turbulence in politics and the world, he is using his money to save people's lives. I think people like that give me hope.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Max, it's been 2 years, but it feels like it was just yesterday. Thank you so much for coming back on. Where can we find you online?
People can search up Max Medyk or go to immigrateai.global.
Fantastic. Well,
Thank
thanks
you.
so much for being here again.
Thank you very much. It was awesome. Thank you.